Good morning. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Rabbinic Cynic. I'm Rabbi Andrew, Rabbi Andrew Bentley, otherwise known as the Rabbinic Cynic, because I can be quite cynical about things sometimes. Tuesdays I dedicate to more current events, and Fridays this is my new times, Tuesdays at 8:30 and Fridays at 8:30 a.m. And Tuesdays is my time to discuss current events which I think are important, not just to the Jewish community, but the community as a whole. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about the 405 incident in Los Angeles, where a number of neo-Nazis had signs across the 405 on one of the over bridges on the 405, saying Kanye was right about the Jews, and there were a number of passages from the New Testament which described and implicated or implied that Jewish people are the devil, and it's a new type of anti-Semitism. It's not a new type of anti-Semitism, sorry. It's an old type of anti-Semitism that is now being rehashed in the 21st century, in modern times. Why Kanye has attracted himself is not something that I really wanted to get into. Well, we got into it a few weeks ago. But we're seeing, my question is this new? Is this new in America? Is this new in the world? Well, we know it's not. We know that just in World War II, now of course the Holocaust happened, Nazi Germany, but what was happening in America at the time? And I've always kind of struggled with the idea of anti-Semitism in the United States. It's not an obvious, at least when I first moved here, it wasn't as obvious as it was where I grew up in Europe. Where we know that European anti-Semitism, it's old, it has its roots entrenched in Catholicism and in various forms of Christianity. Within, obviously the Russian Orthodox Church is not Catholic, so how do you explain the pogroms in Russia? Because it's a different type of church. So I don't want to single out one group of Christians as a root of anti-Semitism, and since some of the roots of anti-Semitism isn't from Christianity at all. But what I found interesting, and I've been listening to a podcast, I've been listening to a podcast called by Rachel Maddow, and it's called Ultra. I recommend anyone to listen to it. You can find it on iHeartRadio. And a friend of mine introduced it to me, and I listened to the first one. I'm kind of become addicted to it. And the podcast it starts with the story about this United States senator in 1940 who went down in a plane crash. It seems like, oh, that's terrible. United States senator goes down in a plane crash. But it turns out this United States senator was about to give a speech that was ghostwritten for him by members of the Nazi Party, by German Nazi agents working in the United States. And as we go through Rachel Maddow's podcast, she describes conspiracies are not conspiracies. This is documented evidence. People were prosecuted, a number of militias trying to overthrow the United States government, kill all the Jews, basically, who they were accusing of being communists, and establish a Nazi system type of government in the United States. This happened in 1940. And not only that, it had the support of law enforcement officials. For example, in the third episode, you should listen to that. I recommend this podcast, again, Hurt. The third episode describes this group of private individuals who infiltrated some of these militias, these Nazi militias, who were being funded by the German Nazi Party, by Hitler's party. And they went in and they found all this evidence of, for example, they knew about a plot to blow up a munitions factory as America was trying to gear up and knew that there was a war coming. They blew up a munitions factory in Jersey, the biggest munitions factory in the United States. They blew that up. A year earlier, the FBI had received testimony from these people who were investigating this issue, but the FBI chose to ignore it. There were other conspiracies that happened where a group of individuals in Los Angeles area wanted to get to kidnap I think it was 20 high-profile members of the Jewish community, and they wanted to string them up and sever their bodies with machine gun fire and hang them and then tip off journalists who can then cover it. Now, this is all documented. These people actually went to the police. It was a Jewish man who went to who started this organization. They went to the local police, who then said, no, my real problem is not neo-Nazis in Los Angeles, but rather the Jews in Boyle Heights. He didn't say Jews, but he said in Boyle Heights, which was a very, very strong Jewish area at the time. This LAPD chief said, there is no difference between a Jew and a communist. They're one and the same. My problem is them, not the neo-Nazis. 1940. So this is anti-Semitism in its oldest form, in its newest form, and it was, coming from the United Kingdom. This was kind of new to me, that this kind of organized attempt to create a Nazi America went back to 1940. It went back to earlier before. I knew some of the anti-Semitism that existed before, the racism that was very parallel to how African Americans and other minorities have been treated. But the idea that there was this organized, popular Nazi philosophy, I don't know why it's news to me. I mean, it's not news to me. But I mean, why when you listen to the podcast, you hear all the details, all the evidence that was collected, and how they didn't really do anything about it. None of the authorities, the FBI sat on this information. There was an explosion. They blew up 3 different munitions factories over the course of in 1940, leading up to World War II, when America entered World War II. And so, why am I talking about it now? This happened in 1940. We live in a different world, you would think, but I don't think we do. I think that they went underground, and now they've been empowered. They've been empowered by certain groups. Some of the certain groups that exist now in American society. For example, one of the examples given was this high energy, the most popular radio show in America in the 1930s and 40s was by this Catholic priest. And in that priest, he wished America would adopt some of the policies of Nazi Germany. This is a Catholic priest, and he's preaching this on the radio. He had a very, very popular show. It sounds familiar, right? It sounds familiar, like some of these talk radio shows that you listen to, where they're preaching a different type of fascism. But at the end of the day, it's still fascism. At the end of the day, it's still fascism. Maybe they don't say that they are anti-Semitic in the same way that they did in the 1940s, because anti-Semitism is, it was not popular to be anti-Semitic. It's becoming increasingly popular. Just there are different ways of expressing it now. Right, there's the common memes. Jews, we control the media, we control Hollywood. But, just the list goes on and on and on and on. Right? Not that similar to 1940. Right, no, it's no longer about us being communists, it's about us being capitalists. So what are we? Are we communists? Or are we capitalists? In the 1940s, we were communists. Today, we're the ultimate capitalists, right? We control the money, we control the Hollywood, we do everything. But we're also too liberal. So, come on. You neo-Nazis out there, if you're watching this, you fucking need to decide why you hate us. Because you don't really know why you hate us. You just hate us because we're different. Or is it because we support minority groups that you don't like either? And I want to say to my Jewish friends out there who support some of these groups, who think that because they support Israel right now, that they are our friends. They are not our friends. I used to be nervous to say this because I was afraid of alienating when I was a congregational rabbi. I'm not a congregational rabbi in that sense anymore. I do work with a congregation out here, but I don't care. I think that there were Jews that supported Hitler in the 1930s, and it didn't turn out well for them. And so I say to my Jewish brothers and sisters out there who don't agree with me, and I love you. I'm a rabbi, but I care about you. I care about you, whether you have the same political beliefs as I do. But you have to remember that there are extreme elements within. You could be a conservative. I have conservative views. I'm a big supporter of Israel. But at the same time, I also have very socially liberal views. But at the same time, just because someone supports Israel doesn't mean I don't think that maybe they have some racist, anti-Semitic views, and that's not a reason I'm going to support them in this country. Because just because they're saying it now doesn't mean they're going to say it tomorrow, and that's important to understand that. This is life or death. It might seem trivial. It might seem that maybe the what people call the lamestream media, these bullshit. Inflammatory statements with no real education to it. Right? They say, oh, it's just they're just trying to get you scared and riled up. Well, that's not the case. That's not the case. These people really want to do harm. They want to do harm to other minorities. They want to do harm to LGBTQ plus groups. They want to do harm to immigrant groups. They want to do harm to African American groups. They want to do harm to Jewish groups as well. Right? They throw, if you're a good Jew, if you're a good Republican Jew, or a good, not necessarily Republicans, I don't want to bring all Republicans into this, because this last election showed one thing. What was that one thing? That the extremist side of the Republican Party didn't do as well. The moderate side did much better. I just want to get back to that. I want to get back to that idea. But the important message that I kind of want to tell you today is that to my Jewish brothers and sisters, and to anybody that is all of my brothers and sisters out there, anyone's a human being that believes in social justice, that believes in a world where everybody should have equal opportunities, that diversity is not a bad word to say I believe in diversity. Why is that a bad word? Why is that a bad word? I don't understand that. Tell me why. Tell me in your comments why you think diversity is bad. But the Jews have always been the canary in the coal mine. They were in the 1940s. They still are today. We still are today. And so those words coming out of Kanye's mouth, the words coming out of the neo-Nazis' mouth, this war of attrition we're fighting against white supremacist groups, against Jew haters from all sides of the political spectrum. This is not going away anytime soon. And we got to wake up. Jewish Americans need to wake up to what's happening, because look, it could happen again, and it will happen again if we don't do anything about it. If we just hide and we don't want to make waves, we have to speak up. We have to organize ourselves to make people around us aware, to make our neighbors aware who may not even understand why they're supporting these policies. You have to make them understand it from that historical context, and also from the context of where we're going as a society. Because I don't want my kids or my grandkids growing up in a society. I don't want my kids to fear for being Jew, or embarrassed by being Jewish, or scared to speak up when they experience anti-Semitism, because we don't want to make waves. We don't want to be pointed at again, because we just want to blend in like everybody else. We're not like everybody else. We're different. We are a minority in this country, and we need to stand up for other minorities, and we also need to stand up for ourselves as well when we experience the anti-Semitism, and not be scared, and not say, I want to stay friends with them. I'm just going to accept that some of the ignorant things that people say because they don't know what they're saying. Well, then educate them about what they're saying. That's my mission. I want to educate you just to know what to say to them, and give you the power and say, you know what, you're not alone in this. You're not alone in this. That you need to speak up. You need to stand up for the people around you who are not Jewish, who are of other minority groups. You need to speak up to and then you need to speak to your neighbors who may hold different opinions. You don't say I'm not going to be friends with you because you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. If we talk to each other, we can help each other understand, because most people are good, decent people. the fringes of the fringe groups, the hate groups, the people that hate. We can only get rid of hate through love. That's John Lennon said, is all you need is love. All you need is also education. All you need is also not to be ignorant, is to educate yourself about these issues so you can discuss with people. Is to learn what sources that you read in the media, to understand when a source is not a reliable source. And everyone says, well, do your research. And you do the research when people say that, and you find all these sources. They're not reliable, they're not written with competent research. They haven't pulled the thread enough to see where it leads, to see whether it's just smoke and mirrors, where it's just these are just arguments that are the straw arguments. You have to really understand that and go there. You have to really do that. Really doing your research means understanding what you're reading. Not just saying, do your research as a way to say, do your research because I can't really explain to you in an intellectual, in a real way, why what I'm saying, why what I think I'm saying is true. Doing your research, that when you just say do your research, you've already lost the argument, because it means you haven't done your research. Right? That common QAnon type statement that people say. So with that, I just want to say, you need to empower yourselves, empower your neighbors, speak the truth where you see it. But what is the truth? And discover what that really is, because the truth has become lies. I'm going to end with one piece of Judaism here, emet. The word emet means truth in Judaism. Aleph, mem, taf. And these letters are the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the middle letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So when we follow that line, you have to go through every letter of the alphabet diligently, and that's the word truth, right? The truth can look like one thing on one side and another thing on the other side, and in the middle, it looks like something else. They're different letters. And so the word emet has to encompass everything, that you have to turn over every stone, overturn every stone to find the truth. And that's the word emet. That's what the Hebrew word emet means. If you think about it, it can be found in every letter of our alphabet, of the Hebrew alphabet. So we have to seek out that truth. And that truth involves understanding where you're getting your information from. Just because it comes from the New York Times doesn't mean it's not true. The New York Times is written by journalists. Maybe some editorials have certain slants you don't like. But even if it's the Wall Street Journal is another example. This is a conservative paper, but that's good journalism there. And so you have to look at things in those contexts. You have to understand where your sources are from, and that's the only way we can combat that, through finding truth. And that's what the idea of tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue, because you can only pursue justice when you find the truth, when you seek for the truth, when you open your hearts to the truth, even if it's a difficult truth to accept. And with that, I will see you on Friday. We're going to be talking about the Torah portion. We're going to be moving along on the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's an exciting story. How do we bring that into the modern world? And I want to bring that into the modern world, some of these difficult issues, and that's what I dedicate my Fridays to. And next week, I'm going to do some music. I'll be introducing you to some of my Jewish music and explain to you some of the prayers and why I've written the music the way I have. So with that, I'm signing off. Wish you a wonderful Tuesday. Hope you have a great week. Be kind to each other and see the truth out there. Live long and prosper.